my whole objective was to find out how he reads the water and how he finds the tuna. So obviously the number one thing was upwellings when the water goes from warm to cold. So we consistently get a very strong south flow of current at this time of the year. It starts to kick in, and then once it gets hooting around Christmas time, it's running at 4 knots, then it's quite warm, right? 26, 27 degrees. But this time of year, it's running at about 22 to 23 or 24 maybe. You need to find where there's if you look on the charts or even just BOM have a sea temperature chart. It's pretty basic, but it still does work. Obviously, Rip Charts has a go if you've got the access to Rip Charts app. And you will see where it'll be a big dark red flow of 24 degrees at this time of the year, maybe out wide. But then you'll see a swirl, like a low system sort of swirl, and it'll be 21 or 22. That's where the tuna will be, okay? And the telltale things to look for when you're out tuna fishing, obviously get to the area, is trying to look for birds. That's obviously number one. Number two is look for dolphins, because obviously they're feeding a lot of time under the dolphins on bait there, under the dolphins down deeper. Okay, and if you all know what mackerel come up like on the screen, there's like a line, tuna's exactly the same, okay? So that's what you look for, is just lots of little skinny lines on the sounder. They don't come up arches like so, they don't come up as a blob, it's just a line. And they're quite fast moving around, same as mackerel are. The tuna size at the moment are quite good this year. I've heard of a few fish around that sort of 35, 40 kilo, but predominantly they've been around 60 kilo plus. They've been big fish. So they're a beautiful fish that size, and they're hard work. The average flight time on 50 pounds is going to be about, I don't know how good you guys are, around about 35 minutes to about probably an hour 10. And on 37 kilo, 20 minutes to about 40 minutes maybe. So they're quite hard work. And the hardest part of tuna fishing I found is the anticipation of wanting to gaff it when it does the circles around and around. And you want to swing up that gaff, but you're better off just waiting for the next loop around. Does that make sense? Have you experienced that with the tuna? You just got to wait, and eventually it'll come to you, and then you sink the gaff in. If you want to keep the tuna well preserved and at its best edible quality, don't ever do a gut shot or a stomach shot, or even a shoulder shot. You've got to go for the head, always for the head, okay? Because their meat will distort and be terrible particularly if you get it in the heart or in that part of the gills area, down below the gills. So don't go for that area when you're gaffing, head shot, okay? To lift them into the boat, they're quite barrelly, so they come up all right, the head comes up, but then they get stuck. Unless you're a he-man, it's quite hard to lift them outside. So you need two guys, sometimes I'll grab the tail, which will be shaking quite hard, or you'll need to probably put a second gaff, like a meat cleaver gaff in the mouth, and then lift it into the boat with two gaffs. Okay, so we'll talk about that a bit later too.
So you don't look at dragging them over the back of the boat?
Yeah, if you've got a transom door, 100% Greg, yeah. If you've got a transom door, and back in the 90s we didn't have transom doors, boats of high size, like a Haynes 680 or whatever. So yeah, you had to, it was a bit difficult. But yeah, a door, through the door. But be careful, those little doors are only skinny and they're quite chunky, they'll get stuck. Yeah. When you get the fish into the boat, you need to take care of it straight away. So there's different techniques of looking after tuna. On the longline boat, you feel between the two eyes, there's like a soft patch on its head, like a little baby's little crown's got the soft part. Like you do with the baby with a fish. You stick the spike down that soft part, and then we actually have core sets downstairs where you got the wire and you feed the wire down, and then go down into the backbone as far as you can push it down, and then pull it back out and just go stiff. The more, if you just gaff it on the deck and it's just flapping away going crazy and trying to hold it, it's just bruising the meat really badly. Okay. Next thing I do would be to, it depends, again you need to learn, but you can put a little incision in the gut about probably 15 centimetres long from the anus up towards the front, and just get a knife and then cut where the stomach joins onto the backside there. Cut that out, that section off so that it's loose, and then cut its gills and cut the gills on the sides and the join where it joins onto the back of its head, and then that just all comes out one big go. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, just slit the gut, cut the gills out, and then put it straight into ice in a bag, preferably. Bags are very popular. We didn't have them back in the day either. We just had real big esky, pretty well, or towels. That was it. It was pretty basic.
Yeah.
But these days got a luxury bag. So 1.5 metre bag will fit most tuna. The sickles on those bigger ones, the bigger of most tuna, when they get to about 30 kilos, the sickles start to go vertical, horizontal with the body. And one about 40, 50, 60 kilos, it just gets longer. So you don't get any more depth that way. The tuna get deeper, but the sickles don't stick out more like that. So they're hard to get in a bag when they've got big sickles, but the beauty of our fish out here is that it's quite narrow, yeah, because they're a bit bigger. And the metre-long bag won't cut the grade for the fish out here. You'll need a 1.5 bag if you're going to use a bag, but have plenty of ice. So I know it's a lot of preparation, but you're better off gutting it and killing it before you actually put the line back out in the water again. If someone can help do that while you're fishing, just to get the meat perfect, you know. Yeah, you know, that's a bit of muck around, but
Yeah. Definitely helps if you've got a deck wash or something like that too, because the boat looks like an absolute murder scene. But yeah.
Yep. So that's just on the fish. Okay, the fishing gear. Okay, so if I was going to go out, like I've got a habit of trying to do everything in one day. I want to do everything that we're talking about tonight, and I'll take probably 10 rods out. But I'm going to start off, my day would be, if I was going to go, say, early, it's about, to give you some idea of the distance, okay, how many guys have got boats under 6 metres? Okay, so if you've got a boat that's, say, I wouldn't go out under 5 metres to the distance we're talking about tonight. I wouldn't go out under 5.8 or 6 if it's shallow-sided. You know, you can get a day that might be 10 knots, but the problem is, you know, you got storm comes up, and it might get a bit of west in the wind, and you've got a bit of swell on, it's a bit ugly. Or you might be out there and a current will come in. If you've ever been out there and it's a glass out and a current will come in, and you actually see the water start to get white capped, and it's actually just a current. Like a 4 knot current comes in. Or you'll get a bit of southerly comes in, you get 2 knots or 2.5 knots of current, and southerly might come in at 12 to 18 knots, and all of a sudden the waves start to stand up because the current's pushing against the wave. So there's a lot of things of a smaller boat you have to be really careful of, and obviously fuel's the big thing. Because to give you some idea too, the grounds where the tuna start are about around 55k run, 52 to 55k run. That's in around 300 metres, which you will see in the sheet of paper you got there. And then your next lot of grounds is what we call Riviera Grounds and Jimmy's Mountain. They're around about around 28 to 30 nautical miles. So a nautical mile is 1.8k. So if you've got 30 miles, it's 54k's, okay? And then from there, you go out to Mix Mountain, which is, I think it's 35 nautical miles, I think it is, by memory, 35. And that's where the honey hole is, where these tuna are at the moment, which is around about sort of 1,000 metres, 1,100 metres. And then from there out to the next mountain, which I don't really know if there's a name for the next mountain now, there's about, it's only about 5k's away, 3 nautical miles further out. I call it Matt's Mountain because Matt, that's where we get all the tuna from the customers recently. I said, well, no, Matt's Mountain. But it's quite big. It's like Ayers Rock size. It's about 3 miles long by a mile wide, and it comes up sort of, I don't know, 300 metres or something. It's quite a big area, and that's where a lot of bait's been on, a lot of fish have been on at the moment. And that's about a 38 nautical mile run, which is about 70k's. When we're down the Gold Coast here, it's funny, we think that's, well, so far. It is open sea, I'll give it that. But if you're anyone here from up north, like up around, say, Airlie Beach or Townsville area, and like the guys that there run 100k's, it's close 70k's, right? Yeah. So most of the guys that they're running 100k's out the reef to go fishing. So for them, it's nothing. And when we say that, it does at times. It can get pretty rough between the reef and the mainland, the islands. Yeah, the main channel, the main area. But it's a different sea. We're in 1,000 metres, and the swell's coming straight from Antarctica up. There's nothing to stop it on the way through. We're up there. They're a bit protected from southerly swell, like from what we get. It's a little bit different. You're right, but it still does get rough. It's more of a short chop, but it does. We've been up there in my mate's boat, 22-foot boat, and we've had waves coming the back of the boat current against wind. Same scenarios down here, a bit scary, but we get a lot more of that down here. Yeah. So anyhow, so it's not that bad. It's just the travelling time getting there, 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get back. Okay, but my suggestion would be when you wake up in the morning, you just go straight out there because the weather's always good first thing in the morning normally. Okay, unless a month ago you have a bit of west in the morning, you might want to wait a bit later, but now it's normally pretty good in the mornings.
What time would you go out?
Oh, I'd be probably hitting the water at, as long as the swell's under 1.2 metres and the seaway's reasonable, because it's a bit tricky at the moment as well, on low tide, say in the dark, if the swell's over 1.5 metres maybe. But I'd be hitting seaway at about 4 and try and be out there at 6. It'll come daylight about 4:30, 4 to 5. It's cracking daylight. Yeah, so you'll be able to see everything. And there's not many whales around now, so it's a bit safer. Okay, try and be out there at 6, and then first thing I'll be doing is deploying skirts. I'll be putting 2 hard bodies out the back, which we'll talk about the gear in a moment. Or the hard bodies, 2 hard bodies at the back in close and 2 skirts out further. And then trawling around until I find the birds, until I find, and I'm watching the thermocline on my sounder, which is normally down in the daytime around 140 to 200 metres sort of thing. The tuna will never go below the thermocline. It's in to stay at the thermocline or above it. That's what my pro mate taught me years ago. And then just looking for the streaks. They may be down deep, there might not be much activity on the top, but if you can find those streaks, that's where they are. And like with marlin will come up 150 metres to grab a lure. And I think they're the same as well. But if you can see them on there, they're not coming up, there's no bait on the top, and you've done laps and laps and laps for an hour and a half and got nothing, I then resort to either cubing or to jigging in that school. Okay? When they come to the top, then you either troll lures again, or you switch to stick baits and stuff like that. They're a little bit like who chases longtail tuna here? Does anyone chase longtail tuna? Those of you who do, you know how pedantic they are. So, and you know, Stewie.
Oh, that's so
we got Harvey Bay chase them
really
sometimes. And, oh my gosh! So you zoom up to them, and you've got the perfect cast. You get it in there. You might get a hit. You might miss it, and then it's just like they've just disappeared. And you look at everywhere as far as you can see that they've gone. And yellowfin aren't as bad as that. They're not as touchy and not as sketchy, but they will do that as well. So in that case, they go back down. You can either jig or you can again cube. We'll talk about that as well in a moment. So we'll go through the gear now.
Real quick on, like we obviously chase a lot more longtail. The weather permits for a lot of that, but tuna really don't like a change in noise frequency. So they get used to it. So if you drive up to a school, everyone turns their motor off because they think they're going to come around and say hello. They don't like it because it's a change. Just leave your motor running, leave your transducer pinging. If you've got your transducer and your sounder on, don't turn it off. They don't like change. Yeah. They're very fussy with that noise.
I learned something tonight.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. So rods and reels, we'll start there. So okay, I'm going to trawl in the morning. So what am I going to take? Well, you really need something that's capable of handling a fish at 60 kilos. Okay. So I'd be starting at a reel that's around about like a 25 size. A TLD 25 will probably do it, but not really at the greatest. You probably haven't got enough balls on the drag to control a big fish. A Tyrannos would be cutting the grade okay, I think, just.
Yeah.
The Speedmaster obviously be better again. And line-wise, I'd be running either, these have got braid behind, so around 500 metres of braid, then top shot with about 100 metre strip.
About 150,
the 150 metres of 24 kilo mono on top of that. Okay, and that's the sort of, you need at least 400 metres of line on your reels if you're going to be chasing these big tuna, and 600 metres preferably if you can get away with it. So that's about 600 metres on there. So that's the sort of outfit I'd start at. Doesn't necessarily have to be that rod, but that rod's a very good rod. That's the Shimano as well. But that's the sort of thing. 2-speed, if the fish goes deep and just does the big circles down deep, you can drop it in low gear and obviously just keep working up slowly. But it's not a necessity to have a 2-speed reel, okay? It's just a bit easier on your back. The most popular outfit we probably sell in that category is going to be a TLD because they've got the volume of line capacity. The price is similar, a little bit dearer, and they've just got the capacity. So does anyone have sort of reels that size, like a TLD 50 size? Yep, some of you might have it. Yep. They'll hold about. Okay, I better tell you this first. In line, guys, line's getting thinner. It's like braid. It's continuously evolving and getting thinner and thinner and thinner. So what was 15 kilos, so this is strand, which is a pretty good line. You'll know strand. Very popular game line. That's 15 kilo, 0.56 millimetre. Japanese Mitsubishi's brought out this line here. It's 24 kilos and it's 0.55, so it's actually thinner than 15. So your capacity's amped straight up, so you can fish the reel harder, fish the gear harder, and for the same capacity of line. And it's the same again, if you're 24 kilo and you compare it to the 37 kilo in this brand, it's the same thickness. So it's like one scale up for the same thickness. So you get either lots of the lighter line on, or you get same size, one size up in the category. But that's where I'd be starting at. Outfit like that, you're looking at spilled up probably around, just off the top of my head, around about 650 or 695. Okay. And then you get to Tyrannos. So Tyrannos, probably one of our biggest sellers because they're just tough as. That's the Tyrannos 50. Capacity is exactly the same. It's just a bit more beefier. Has a drop-down gear, so that one has a different gear system. This one has a big drop-down gear, so it's a lot more powerful on the upstroke. The gear ratio is also higher in that case as well. Bigger handle, and just a bit more drag power as well. Okay. Price-wise, there for that, it's about another $150, roughly speaking. Not even. Yeah, not much more. 150 bucks. Then you jump up. These are my old outfits, which have done a lot of work. I've got quite a few of these in my office down the back. So just the old Tiagra 50s. Obviously they're newer now. And that's the old Beastmaster rods from back in the day. And my lead on there is about 300 pounds on 24 kilo mono, but 200s or 150 is enough. It depends on the line. So if you're running 24 kilo mono, I'd be running probably a 150 pound leader to 200. And if you're running 37 kilo, I'd be running 200 to 300. Just in case you get a blue marlin and something else to jump on. That's the other thing too, when you're trolling around this, this sort of thing, at this time of the year, the chance that you might get a 200 or 300 kilo blue marlin jump on your rod, which becomes extremely hard work, and 400 metres goes very quick. So, but the bigger these reels hold more lines, they hold about 1,000 metres of 24 kilo instead of the 600, okay? Yep. Any questions on that at all, guys? All good? Okay. Thank you, Stuart.
That's right.
So we're just doing trawling first. So next thing I do, so I've got my rods all organised. I've checked my wind-on leaders. I use wind-on leaders. It's up to you guys what you want to do there. But the wind-on leader, the line joins onto the mono, and with just we normally have a plait in the end of the mono, and then the end of the wind-on leader has like a little loop, and you pull it through, pull it through, pull it through. It pulls up tight, and it's about 6 to 8 metres long of the 200 pounds. So when you get the fish closer to the boat and it's doing the circles, if you want, you can manhandle it if you know it's hooked well, and actually just pull it to the boat and then gaff it, okay? Otherwise, if you run a long double, you're running obviously 24 kilo doubled up, but it's not the same. You can't hold as strong, you can't be as strong.
You can't lean on it as much. It's going to pop a lot easier. Much easier.
Yeah. So we suggest using wind-on leaders, but that's up to you guys as well. Does anyone not use wind-on leaders here? Yeah, you don't use them, Greg, do you? You go the Pakula way. Pete doesn't like them, but I love them, but that's just me. Stu likes them as well.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah. But anyhow, you've got one in your bags, give it a shot. Give it a shot.
That's all right.
Yeah. So guys, so that they've got the snap swivel. So the snap swivel, make sure it's half reasonable quality, and at least around 60 kilo, okay, on this sort of fishing that we're doing, which is generally a size 5 to 7, depending on the brand. Which I think you've got a packet of 6s, maybe anything around 7 kilos in there. And then the lures. So we're going to look at lures. Okay, our spreader lures. Starting at the deep divers. So you've all got probably mackerel, Spanish mackerel lures like this type of thing here. I'll pass this around. This is Samaki. Actually, the yellowfin colour is a real good colour for yellowfin, believe it or not. Not to eat their babies, but they like that colour. But you want deep divers to get down around that sort of 10 metres and hang in there and don't pop out it. Because sometimes when you're trolling for tuna, you'll up the revs a bit and maybe get up to about 8 knots, which you don't normally do when you're chasing marlin. So you go a little bit faster, you drop your lines back a little bit further. Deep divers, a lot of them at 8 knots will pop out, they'll blow out of the water. So you get the ones like most of your common brands are pretty good. And if they're popping out, you need to obviously just drop the res back or change the lure over.
What speed would you be trolling at with that?
About 6 to 8 knots, but 7 would be probably my go-to, and is my go-to. Nomads are good, Rapalas are very good. The Rapala squid lure, that one there, very popular down south. I'll pass that around too. You want to make sure they've got pretty chunky hooks on them, guys. Again, if you're running 37 kilo braid or mono, and you hook up a big tuna and you give it a bit of drag, a lot of hooks will just, when it's really pulling hard, a lot of those hooks will just bend out, not so much on these brands.
Yeah, do you normally change them out?
To singles?
Depending on the brand, yeah, to singles?
I like trebles even on tuna.
Yeah.
Proven that one on my foot that time. But I just like trebles, and the hookup rate's by far better. And as long as it's around a 5.0 size or a solid 4.0, you're fine. Single hooks, yeah, they've got a bigger gape and they probably work well on tuna as well. They weren't much around back years ago. We used to use trebles all the time. But I would probably stick with trebles.
Do you also troll the bigless minnows?
We do, but for tuna, they do take them, but not as much as they do with that style. Yeah, so that style's more of a roll type action, where they're more of a shimmer in the bigless. Yeah, it's the thumb, and I think the thumb's what they like. Yeah.
Yeah, Zuri used to do a big bigless minnow, which was...
Yeah, Zuri do. We do, actually I'm going to hear, we just unloaded a heap yesterday of boxes. We've got actually Tommy and Cairns designed it. It's like the old Cairns swimmer, if you ever knew what they were. I think they were a Leeds lure or something back in the day. That style of thing, it's about 200 mil long and quite big and quite heavy. It's about 400 grams. They're really good. But I'd be still using big lures. Yeah, just for the action, a bit more better. I did grab one here with single hooks on it. They're
So
just
all these lures you're running the standard hooks you're coming with?
Yeah, not changing it, but depends if you got the time and the money to change the hooks. I'd 100% recommend it. How's that sound? It is better, mate. The hooks are sharper, the hooks are stronger, and they just perform much better. And in the hook brands, I'll be definitely going. BKKs are really good. Shinto are made by BKK. They're also very good. And the Nomads make some good stuff.
Yeah.
Although the BKK any other, just different brands.
Nomad is BKK.
Sorry.
Nomad is BKK. Right.
Nomads BKK. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they're the agents for BKK as well.
Yeah.
They use it on their lures. Yeah. So a lot of the better lures you see coming out mainly use BKK hooks. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's a Nomad there, and I normally do say on there. If you could read that.
The
story.
BKK.
BKK.
Definitely.
Yep.
100%. Yeah.
There is one other lure here which I think is BKK hooks as well, but it's one of the only shallow lures that I've trolled, and it trolls up to 10 to 12 knots because it has a planing wing under it, so it holds in there, it doesn't actually spin out, and they're just a really good lure. They're a Japanese lure made by Jackson Lures. I'll pass that around as well. It's a really good, that's a flying fish colour, which is very popular. That one you'll run back probably nearly the same distance as your skirtle lures. Okay. So when you're trawling for yellowfin tuna, your divers are obviously set back a bit further than mackerel fishing, so they're back around about 40 to 50 metres maybe. But sitting behind the boat, they'll be about 25 to 30 metres back because they'll dive down. Your skirtle lures should be around about 60 metres back, so fairway back. Your teaser, which you normally run when you're trolling for marlin, might be only 3 rows back or 4 rows back at the most. Say 8 metres behind the boat with nearly the bird sticking out of the water sort of thing. Pretty well, straight down, nearly pulling its head out of the water. When you're trolling for tuna, you want to run, as long as you've got at least 2 guys on the boat and you're going to run 4 lines and a teaser, or 5 lines maybe. I wouldn't run 5. But if you do and you run teaser, the teasers drop back around about 20 metres. It's quite a fair way back. So make sure you remember that. Don't run it too close. They won't come close. They will cubing, but never trawler. I've never caught one close. I don't know if anyone here's caught one close trawling. I never have. 25 metres back, maybe 30 metres back would be the closest. Okay. So that's the hard bodies. We'll go to skirts now. So skirts, years ago, I could go back years ago because the yellowfin tuna, they were a crazy fish to everyone. It was like the number one fish to catch for the 90s and early 2000s. For about 20 years, everyone had fever on yellowfin tuna, particularly down south of Sydney. And the type of lures that came out at that time, and a lot of them were Hawaiian introduced, were very popular in the bullet type heads and in the Zuka range. The Zuka range were like a feathered type skirt, not actually a skirt. And Zukas were probably one of the biggest selling yellowfin lure in Australia at the time. Okay, and now you say Zuka lures, and half you guys would never know what I'm talking about. But what they were was just a head like that head that you got in your bag, but without metal. It was a resin head, and it was just a big feathers, and they smashed the yellowfin tuna. I mean, like smash them. But no one asks for them these days, so we don't sell them. No one knows, and I think they're still better than most lures on the shelf. So what I'm getting is it doesn't have to be a really big lure. Most of those lures are only 6 or 7 inch, and they're catching up to 80 kilo yellowfin or bluefin on them, you know. So when we sell tuna lures these days in a skirter lure, and personally myself, that's probably about as small as I'd use, okay? That type of size there. Or the one that you've got, the one you got in your bag is actually a little tiny bit bigger. Bullet heads, if you're going to troll around that sort of 8 knot speed, are really good, particularly with the jet head in them. This is Marlin Magic. These guys here put out, so I think it's jet head, if you've seen in the water, if you've used a jet head before, they're that size head, but it looks about that big in the water. It's going through the water. It looks like a tuna size, you know, small tuna size, because they blow the water outside and are very, very good, because it's a little lure. They're going to come in and smash it, and it's quite easy for them to get hooked up because it's not such a big lure, if that makes sense. But it looks big in the water. Anything with a pointed head on it, the metal's fine for tuna. It works fine. It's still very popular. But I think that sort of pointy head, if you can see that, is good because it doesn't really shudder too much, but it definitely just looks natural in the water. I guess it's easy for them to see. Okay, complete opposite to the jet head, I know, but you sort of troll one or the other. And jet head should get up to that size as well. It's pretty cool, the jet head there, with the round front on as well. And then the other lure, that's a bigger one again, so that's about as big as you want to go. I wouldn't use a skirt. I wouldn't use many 12-inch skirts because your problem is you're going to attract blue marlin. So unless you want to catch blue marlin as well, but you could spend 2 or 3 hours on a big fish when the tuna are on their bite period for 2 or 3 hours. So up to you guys what you want to do. But other times you want to catch blue marlin, you're hanging for one, you know. And you know, it's always the way. But that's a big jet head. That thing there looks massive in the water. And the other thing is like a tailpipe type lure. So that's a large tailpipe and it's a narrow tailpipe. Tailpipes have an erratic action, so they'll kick along, then they'll kick off and they'll come back again. They sort of, the head folds back and then they push out again. Has anyone used tailpipe type heads before? The long head. I'll pass these around. These are made in Hawaii, so they're expensive but they're really good.
Do you need to run a heavier drag with those?
No, so it's all, if you're running like 24 kilo, you're running about probably 7 or 8 kilos, something in that bracket. Yep, and 37 around 12, 10 to 12. So running single hooks and double hooks, no one's asked that question yet, but that's a personal choice whether you run a single hook rig like so, or you run a double hook rig like so, in the packet there. So it's up to you guys, but personally, if you've got guys on the boat, you take a mate that have never been game fishing before, I'd be running single hooks and everything. It's just too dangerous. And it's 60 k's out to sea, so they get a hook through their hand.
Your double combos, you run at 90 degrees?
Yeah, 100% mate. Yeah, about 60, not quite 90. But yeah, definitely mate. Yep. And leader-wise, I'm running around, on the smaller lures about 150, that's why you've got 150 in your bag to rig up for the lures, it's not for the cubing. And on the bigger lures, I'll be running around that There's a blue marlin, might jump on there, around that 250 to 300 pound at least. The thing with the yellowfin tuna is they've got a little bit of raspy mouth, and you've got to still check your lead. It's a bit like dolphin fish, I guess, but they're nowhere near as bad as a marlin. So your lead is fairly safe from being chafed on the yellowfin tuna.
What sort of leaders do you run?
Just normal. I run short leaders, Phil. I like to have my fish right there. So I'm running like, I'm running around about, say, 4 to 6 metres of wind-on, and about 1.2 to 1.5 of leader. And then double's very short, maybe 600 mil. Yeah, so altogether, around about maximum about 8 metres. Yeah. The game fishing rules you allowed up to 12, but you never do that. You'd run about 10.5 just for safety. Yep. Hook. The wire on your hook. That's just. I'll pass this around. This is lighter gauge as I go on 37 kilo, but 24 kilo that would be better because 37. If you really crank the drag up, say you did hook a marlin and you crank the drag up, you'll bend it. On a tuna you probably won't, but you will on a big marlin. Otherwise you got to go up heavier. Something like that sort of style there. Hidden single hook rig. Thanks, Stuart. Does everybody here know how to crimp properly?
I hope so.
Yeah, so don't be shy. But a lot of guys don't, and I think probably once a day we get someone come in saying, "Can you teach us how to crimp?" because they're cutting their line or whatever it might be. The golden rule is, and Stuart's very good at crimping because he does most of our leaders.
We do a lot.
Yep. But if that's the crimp there, and
just a real quick one. If you're crimping mono, most important thing is you use an aluminium sleeve. It's a bit harder, it bites onto the mono better. You can't use a copper sleeve, and it's a double sleeve, so it's actually like a barrel type shape.
So that's the long end, not the flat end, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's side view. Can you just draw a side view? It's like it'd be like that.
That sort of shape. Yeah. Sort of thing. So the lines pass through here once, and then a bit thicker, and then twice. Come back around again. You made the loop on the end here, sort of thing. But when you crimp it, it's really important that you crimp it with about a 0.5 mil to 1 mil flange on that. So don't go right up to the end on both ends there. If you have a big bench crimper, the problem with the little short crimps is the bench crimper's wider than the crimp, and it'll always cut your line. So you have to use the longer crimp on a bench crimper if you've got a bench crimper. Yeah. We have one downstairs actually, but we only use it for bigger crimps. Yeah. Otherwise, use the hand tool, just like that type of thing there.
Yeah. The reason is when you crimp it, like if it was too wide and you crimp right on the edge, it actually folds the side of the crimp onto its it kind of mushrooms down, and it's real sharp, very sharp.
And your first crimp should be like if you got this is say the longer crimp, a bit longer than normal, not the shorter one. Your first crimp will be in that section there. The next crimp will be in that section there. And then if you turn it upside the other way, then you do that one there. If you keep going along it, it'll end up being a little bit that sort of shape.
Yeah, and they quite often they crack on the top side.
Okay, so spin it around to do your middle crimp. But make sure you leave about a 0.5 mil to 1 mil flange on either end, okay? That's about it. Any questions on that at all, folks? So we're still getting ready to catch the tuna. We're getting our gear ready the night before. Preparation.
Aluminium on your mono.
Copper on the wire. Yeah. So the pliers that are coming around, you'll see that they're like a hole. They're not the tooth style. So some crimping pliers have the tooth in it. They're only be used on single copper wire sleeves, not the double copper wire sleeves. So the double copper wire sleeves look a bit like this.
They're like a figure eight.
Yeah, like a figure eight sort of thing. So your wire goes through there and through there. And when you crimp it with the hole type, that sort of folds around each other and becomes one sort of thing, if that makes sense, with the wire in the middle. And you can crimp right up to the ends with the wire crimps. You don't need that to flange. I'd recommend not having the flange.
Yeah, crimp the whole thing.
Whole thing, yeah. Okay, so we've got our skirts ready and we've decided we're going to run. You only need to run, and I wouldn't run 4 skirts, guys. I'd be running 2 divers always, okay? Probably more than half our hits on the divers and not the skirt.
Do you always run the same sort of divers?
Every year new colours come out, new styles come out.
Well, like
Yeah.
same depth divers?
Oh, yeah, mate. No, not necessarily. So as I was saying before, that shallow one, that Japanese one coming around.
You might have 2 different.
Yeah, I'll run that back a bit further, mate. I might sneak a 5th one line in, but I don't like to do that. Not out there. No. So,
What teasers are you running?
just a floppy teaser, like a daisy chain, bird, and something like that.
Which doctor?
Which doctor may work, but we never really had the tuna luck as we do on a bird. I don't know why. So how many people here use like a daisy chain with a bird when they're trawling? Okay, and which doctor? Yeah, like give it a crack, but it doesn't seem to work as good as a bird for some reason. That's why I need some. We got it downstairs, but
Yeah.
you can bring one up.
Do you need to run
Yeah.
teasers?
No, you don't.
Okay.
No, so you need to look for the birds and look for the fish, and then once you find them, I'll find you. Don't worry. Yeah. So it's not a necessity to run the teaser with tuna. It definitely is for marlin, I believe, but tuna's not as important. Yeah.
So how far back were you running your teaser at?
About 15 metres, 20 metres maybe even. Yeah, quite a fair way. I always like right side. If you're driving forwards, port side. Yeah, but because I can look back and see it easy. Yeah, if I'm driving, I'm always driving. So, yeah. But my kids fall asleep all the time. Yeah, that's when I'm fall asleep. So colours of the skirts. No one asked me that either. Look, colours of skirts. It depends, up to you guys. I think the gentleman before that did ask about colours on divers and what style. With skirts, probably one of my best colours has been Evil, that colour there, the old Bakula Evil sort of colour, which comes in a lot of different brands of lures. It seems to be like a really good colour. I'll pass that around as well. All this stuff's 30% off too, guys. Down south, I bought this colour because I bought a few of these off Peter last year because we have a lot of tourists coming in from Tassie and southern Victoria, and that is their like go-to colour for catching tuna. Okay, and even New South Wales as well. So I'll pass that around as well. I've never tried that colour. Yeah, I have tried brown and pink before, but not that particular colour. But it's supposed to work really good. That's grasshopper, but the traditional, we've got them downstairs again, the traditional Lumo and green grasshopper is a great tuna colour as well. Also a great stick bait colour and also a great deep diving colour, diver colour, yeah. The Brad J colour, which came out a few years ago, I wish it was around years ago, would be, I reckon, it'll smash the tuna. I haven't tried it yet in the lures that I've got, still use my old lures. But I think it would be a good colour as well. And pink and blue, probably, that's a given. In the diving lures that are coming around, red and white is always a good colour on tuna, whether it be up north or down south, it doesn't seem to matter. The mackerel colour, like this Spanish mackerel colour is popular. They do like a green sari type colour in the Rapalas and a couple other brands, that's a really good colour as well. And the colours that have gone around are really good colours as well, guys, okay?
You just going back to them, are you running your Lumos starboard side?
Yeah, so I like to run on my Lumos on the port side, on the long corner. Yeah. So my, always behind the driver's side, I keep it short so I can see it again. It's a bit close for me, easy for me to see. I can look around to that side of the boat, the port side. It's hard when you're facing this way or that way. And I can see out the back, because I've turned around and I can see it easier. But behind me, I want it short. So it's always out quite a fair bit on the riggers. Do you troll for tuna on riggers? I'd suggest no. Reason for being is you've got 2 divers in close and 2 skirts out. They're not going to get tangled up too badly, right? And it's time consuming and trawl that a little bit faster. Sometimes they pop out of the band or the peg or whatever. or your tag lines pop out, the band breaks. Because a fair bit of stress on a lure at that speed, and especially a bigger lure, it's a bit bigger. Little black marlin lures are fine, they're tiny. They don't have much pressure on the water. These bigger lures pull they pull hard. You've got to fight the lure in for the first 10 metres.
When you troll your lures, do you prefer to keep them like tighter together than you would for marlin? Kind of like
For tuna, yeah. So, as I said, my divers are about 40 metres back, but only about 25 metres there, but the next lot's sort of 40 to 60 metres back. So if I were to stop, the dive would nearly hit the skirt. Does that make sense? Because they're both placed at 40 metres. And then the lunar one might be 60 metres back, mate.
Yep.
Or I'd run that colour back a long way.
Yep.
So the two colours I run back first would be like a lumo and a pink. Okay.
With the colours, does it depend on the sunlight as well? Does it change the colour?
Water clarity and colour and sunlight. I don't know. I just have like my 3 or 4 favourite colours, which is green, pink, that sort of colour. Definitely, I like to run for marlin. We run a purple and black. Purple and black for tuna works fine too. Don't get me wrong. But I will be trying more that sort of, like that brownie one or that sort of colour this year. I haven't tried it yet, mate, for tuna, but I will be trying it this year.
What about,
Orange is very good.
sorry, what about
Yeah.
plastics, like your old
Yeah,
squid
so squidgies. So I can't believe that squidgies. We said we couldn't dump them out at $5 each, and they're like $300 online. Anyhow, they work really well, and they don't throw their head like a marlin does, so it's very hard for them to shake them out. That's what a lot of people, like a marlin, they're not very good because they'll shake it out, right? The weight will just flick the hook out. But yeah, they do work really well. So you're talking about like the
It's like a metal head.
yeah, metal head, sort of like that, and then you've got like a soft plastic thing on the end, sort of thing. It's a bit of a dodgy looking one, but that's the sort of thing that it is. And they're about they're about 260 long, I think, or something like that. They probably weigh about 400 grams, 300 grams. They're pretty heavy, and they just hang in there. They pull from just at the top here. The line sort of goes down an angle like that. Still the same system these days? Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing, that single hook.
Yeah, single hook, yeah. So it's got key locks in here. But yeah, so that's also popular down south. But up here, not many guys use it, but I dare say it'd work, mate, 100%. The beauty of those is you control those up to like 12 knots, so you can really cover a lot of ground quick. As I was saying before, it's really important for you to understand your fuel usage. Because a lot of time out there, if you do come to the shit and something happens, you run out of fuel, whatever it might be, remember channel 82 on your VHF is the repeater station. So it's very hard to get, if you just go on the 7.3 and try and talk to Coast Guard, 60k out, you won't get them unless you've got a big game boat, the big aerial. It doesn't work because of the curvature. It's sort of hitting somewhere on the way. But if you go to channel 82, they've got a big repeater on Tamborine Mountain, and they'll pick you up. Brisbane Radio will pick you up. Okay.
Right, a few weeks ago, we were here in Harvey Bay. Well, people going out through the bay up there. I'm like, wow,
You could hear them, could you?
yeah.
Serious?
To Coast Guard, other BMR there.
On 82, mate? What channel is that on?
Oh, it was 73.
Yeah, okay. Some days,
It was 43.
some days I don't know how it works and bounces off. I don't know. Some days you can't get that.
Tinker
Yeah.
actually was, sorry.
Tincan Bay, yeah, it's a long way away. Yeah. A lot of mountains between here and there too.
Yeah, I was quite surprised.
Yeah, but 82, just remember that, guys, for emergency. So that's the skirt of Lewis. So you're all cool on that? Everyone's happy with that? Okay. Next scenario is going to be probably when you're trawling around, like I said, and you see the lines happening, they're down deep, nothing's happening. You might resort to jigging. There's how many people have jig outfits in that sort of 50 pound to 80 pound class? A few of you do. So when you're jigging for these type of fish, you're not actually like catching blue-eye trevally or whatever down deep. You're dropping it just down a certain depth and you're working it back up through that school of fish. You need to be able to see them on the sounder. If you can see the thermocline, That's the depth you want to drop down. So you need braid that's coloured. You need to count your colours. You need to know exactly where you're at. So that's really important. It's very productive for tuna. We never done it back in the day. We didn't think of doing it back in the day. Didn't have the gear really. There's a Pen 6.0 maybe or something like that. It was crap stuff. Actually, Master Mariner, the narrow Master Mariner used to be the jigging reel. These days we've got, if you just want to grab that Venom one, there's two. So we do a lot of deep jigging, but I have not done it on the tuna yet out here. I'm hanging to do it, and we'll do it. So this is the sort of outfit we're using. This is not my rod. I grabbed it out of the off the shelf, but my rod's very similar to this. But that's a PE5. It's a Venom rod that will jig up to 900 gram jig. But because you're only jigging down to about 200 metres, as long as your wind is under 15 knots and there's not too much current, you should be able to get away with a really good, long, thin, sort of 300 to 400 gram jig. So it won't be too hard on you. But if you ever jig to 500 or 600 gram jig, it's quite hard work. Stu can tell you about that.
It's very hard work.
But if you use something like this Japanese jig here, this is called katana. So katana, on a guy, sorry. We've got katana downstairs, but they're like a sword. So I've dropped this out in 500 metres at gyms, and my mate's dropped 4 kilos of lead on a deep drop rod, and we both hit the bottom at the same time, and that's only 400 grams. It just shoots through the water. So when those tuna start to show up and you want to drop a jig down, that's the sort of thing I'd be running, and maybe even a bit smaller, around that 300 gram, sort of that size there. Okay, and I'd be running double assists on it, and running fairly decent hooks. I'll get Stu to actually rig this up if you don't mind, Stu, and I'll pass it around in a moment. Top end, bottom hooks. When you're jigging with the tuna, it's a different style. So when we're slow pitch jigging, we're sort of lifting up and winding down half a crank, and the lure's fluttering back and using a bit shorter tight lures. When we jig, who's jig for kings? When you jig for kings, you go quite hard and fast, like you're having an attack, right? Really quite hard. It's momentum. With tuna, it's like 6 or 7 short, quick, fast bursts with the handle, and then stop. And that's what it's like. Okay, you're not actually even doing much lifting. You're just holding it and winding it, holding it and winding it, and sort of bringing it up like that. That's the action. Okay. So you probably want to pull it around about probably 5 to 10 metres between each wind, each set of winding up. And then lifting it sort of, yeah, thanks mate, yeah, that'll be fine. I'll even that one, whichever. And then bring it up through the water column and dropping it back down again. You will get hit sometimes on the fall as well. The tuna are very aggressive and very fast. So, and the mouth's reasonably big, even though it's quite pointed down the end there, it is quite big. So they'll just inhale the whole thing. So, but you need to find, as I said, if this is your sounder and the bottom's down there somewhere, but you just look at, say, 0 to 300 metres and say you're in 1,000 metres. You just got that part zoomed in, and your thermocline's here at around your scatter layer at around about 180, 200 metres, whatever. You'll just, and there might be bait, a bit of bait around as well, down maybe 50 metres or 100 metres, and you'll just see the tuna will just be, they'll just look like that. They'll just look like that. Has anyone seen that out there yet at all? You guys that are marlin fishing? No? Okay. Just like that. That's what it'll look like. They may be in amongst the scatter layer as well. They never go below it. I don't know why. They just don't go below it. But so that's what you're looking for. So if you're jigging, you trawled around, got nothing. Okay, I know where that is. So I'm going to go back there and have a look. You see it again. Obviously, again, work out your drift, work out the windage, just do a blind drift on your GPS. You've marked them here, and this sort of all in this area here. I know the winds may be blowing a little bit of northerly, northwest. You might be drifting in this sort of fashion with the southerly. Just do a blind drift, just see how long it takes you to go. That's going to sink down something like that in about, let's say around that 200 metre mark, probably in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Okay. So you need to allow that time to get down amongst the zone. So you probably maybe start your drift here. You've done your first drift, 2 minutes is about that area there. So you start around here for your next drift. And by the time it gets in the area, you should be in the zone. They do move around. They'll move around the bait, but if you can keep them there, when we get back to cubing in a moment, they'll stay in the area, or they'll come with you. But when you're jigging, unless you're cubing, we can actually jig your cube trail as well, by the way. It's shallower too, maybe 30 to 60 metres max. And use a smaller jig, because they're looking at feeding on smaller baits. It's a bit different, but yeah, so this is the go though. Your gear needs to be, when you hook up guys, it's going to be big. It's going to be hard and fast. And anything that's like a P2 or 3 outfit, you won't get it. You'll get smashed, I think, and spooled. Need a bit of drag as well. Okay. You could jig with a sort of 10,000 to 20,000 size spin reel as well. That'd be fine. That'd be all right. And running sort of 50 pound braid, 50 to 80. And about 100 to 130 pound leader. Okay.
So Speedmaster 16?
Would be okay, yep, be fine. Yep, but I'll probably have 50 pound minimum size line on it, braid. Yep. Yeah, 60 on it, mate, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, the big thing is you need distance,
Yeah,
like capacity.
600 metres.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's it, yep, thanks to it. So you can run one on the bottom as well, but you just got to remember, as soon as you do the stop, if you did do that little bit more faster type jigging and a bit more erratic, that's going to get hooked up onto the line, and you have to pull it up, untangle it again. If you just run them off the top and just run a solid ring at the top there, it'll never happen. You got a solid ring on there, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, sorry,
Oh, very nice.
my eyes.
There's a solid ring there, in the middle.
Okay, beautiful size too.
Just tie
There
off
is.
the solid ring?
Tie off to a solid, yeah. Otherwise, if you tie off to a split ring, it'll damage it.
The beauty of that style is you actually, the jig is just like an add-on. It's not actually where any of the weight is on the fish. It's like a sinker, correct?
Yeah.
And if that jig's not working or it's too big and I want to downsize, I'll just rip it off the split ring and put another one back on. The rig's still attached to your line. Okay. Yeah. Any questions on the jigging side? No? Okay. You guys are quiet. Very quiet. Okay. So before we get to the pop and stick bait, I'm now going to talk about cubing. So has anyone ever cubed for tuna at all? And had to go right? Down south?
Down south.
Yeah, and had luck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
Very effective.
Very effective, but there's golden rules to cube. How'd you go down the back, mate? Did you get a few as well?
Trying to spear him.
Okay. They will come to the back of the boat too, by the way.
Yeah.
Right to the back of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not shy.
Handfuls of fillet out and it
Yeah.
disappears.
Yeah, that's it. So, and I've done the same actually just on the 24s, even on little tuna, yellowfin tuna as well. But same thing, principle works. So, there's a few golden rules with burling is you need a lot of burley. Okay, whether it be pilchards or cut up old tuna or cut up anything, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be pilchards, as long as it's cut to about the size of half a finger, sort of thing, right? Or if you use a pilchard, cut in about 4 pieces. When you're using the bait part of the pilchard, I'll show you where to cut at the moment, but I'd leave, your cut is a little bit different because you want to use a section for bait, a bit bigger than the four pieces. So you need a lot of burley. I'm talking like, if you did a 3-hour or 4-hour session, you'd want about probably 10 to 15 kilos of bait of some type to cut up. And you take turns doing it because it's quite stinky and boring and monotonous. And you need to be on the prow, you need to be able to watch that sinking. And you throw about 3 or 4 pieces at a time. Just cut a few, like you get a big pile of cut up pieces, like a buffet for the tuna. And you just grab 3 or 4 pieces and just throw in the water. And you've got your lines, that was I'll show you a set in a moment. And you're watching your lines, I watch the bait, sorry. And as soon as that last little bit disappears, like you're saying, you throw the next 4 out. You cannot stop. And that, to the point is when the fish do go, one of the rods take off or the boat take off, you have to actually keep that, someone's got to keep throwing burley out. Or they'll stop swimming up the trail, there's nothing there, they swim away. So you get the fun of getting the fish in, whatever, then you got to wait another hour to get the tuna back again, because they've gone somewhere. But if you keep throwing that burley out, they'll hang around, they'll stay with you. You just got to keep, your mates going to the top of the line, just keep throwing it out and throwing it out.
What do you use for burley?
Pilchers are the best by far, Clay, but if you've got any old Mac Tuna is a great burley. So you fillet it, then slice it, say you got a 6 kilo Mac Tuna, so I'd fillet it and then slice the fillet maybe in 3 layers, so it's about the thickness of maybe an ice cube. And then slice it. Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. Sharks are a problem on burley trails. That's the only thing that's going to be a problem. Then when you hook a fish up, they try to eat the fish. But, good luck on that one. Yeah. Lots of burley and quite a few rigs, guys. You will get busted up. You get tip wrapped. It's because your line is generally not tight off your rods. You're continuously pulling it and stripping it off. So on rods like that, they're those overhead ones, which work fine. You have to manhandle it. Just keep stripping it off from the tip. And leave the ratchet on. You don't actually have the drag engaged. You're using a circle hook, which are in your bag. 7/0s are fine. Like years ago, we used to use 9/0s and 10/0s, big circle hooks. And then we learnt from years after that, a guy introduced us, he said, look, you don't need anything bigger than 5/0 or 6/0 to catch a 50 kilo fish, you know, as long as it's strong. And those Matsumiring hooks are very strong. And so 7/0 is as big as I'll maybe go 8, but 7's as big as I'd probably go. And they always get corner hooked in the mouth, okay? And so leader a bit different. So that leader you got in your bag, it's not really, as I said before, it's not really meant for cubing. It's meant for your rigs on your lures and stuff, or your stick baits and poppers and stuff. You want to use about 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon. Yeah, that's 88. So 100 pound would be the max I'd use in the leader. But if they're a bit shy, you need to drop down to about 60 or 80. Okay. Fluorocarbon's expensive. Rumour is it that fluorocarbon for fishing is going to be gone in a few years because the material they use for silicon chips or something?
No, lithium batteries.
Oh, lithium batteries, that's right.
Same material, yeah. And they pay more than us fishermen, so that's who's going to get it. But yeah.
That's the story going around. So stock up on your fluorocarbon. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we haven't found any dramas yet.
No.
But they've probably got a bit of stockpile, I guess. But so does everyone know the difference between fluorocarbon and normal line? Does anyone not know the difference? Okay, I'll tell you the difference a little bit quickly. So line is, fluorocarbon has a compound that allows the sun to be reflected. So when light hits it, it doesn't pass through it. On normal mono, light passes through the mono and becomes visible to the fish. So for fish, and I think even for us, like even if I hold fluorocarbon in the water, it is quite hard to see compared to a mono. So light doesn't pass through it. Second thing is it has a lot lower stretch capability. So you have a bit more stretch in line, so the hookup rate may not be as good, but fluorocarbon is a bit like braid, it's quite aggressive and better hookup rate. And the most important thing is the abrasion resistance. So that's why you can use such a light stuff for a big fish. So 60 pound fluorocarbon's like using 120 pound mono for abrasion resistance. The strength is obviously not there because it's only 60 pound, but at the end of the day, you're only running, even on 37 kilo, you might run 20 kilos of drag. So the weakest element's not going to be the line, it's going to be your drag. If you were to use 30 kilo drag on 30 kilo leader, I'd say this will give first at the knots, okay? So wherever the weakest link is, as long as it's not in this stuff or in your hooks or your knots, if your knots are good, that's where it gives first. So normally the drag gives first.
When you're cubing, do you tie knots or do you crimp?
That's a good question too. I tie knots more than crimp. Only because a couple of things, you cut the hook off and quickly tie them on and get it back out there again.
What knot?
Just the uni knot. Yeah, uni knot's good, mate. Yeah. So I find that suffice. Use a very small swivel. You got size 3s in your bag, I think. Normally you'd think, okay, use about a 1 or a 1.0, something that's around about sort of 80 to 100 kilos. But the problem is you're trying to emulate the the sink rate of the bait that you're throwing out. So if you put a big swivel on, it pulls it down past the burley trail that's going at the back that way. Your line's going down that way, it's the way of the swivel. So you have to take that out of the equation. You will get some resistance on the line, but it will be much better if you have a smaller swivel. Okay, and guys say, well, how much line do you put out? 100 metres would probably be the most I put out because you get too much drag and it will eventually come to the top. Otherwise, you just got to keep stripping off. Beauty of a spin reel is you have the drag preset and you have the bar arm open, and when it starts to flick off, like when you float line for snapper, they've already turned the circle hook, they're hooked, they're swimming away, that you just pick it up, grab the rod hold and hook it up. Same with your overhead, the big overheads bit before. When the ratchet goes, it's quite a good feeling when the ratchet goes sitting in the rod holder. Leave it in free spool. With beauty of circle hooks, it does the job itself. So you grab the rod holder, grab your black magic harness, whatever, hook it all up, and then slowly push the lever up and just hold the rod tight at a slight angle, so it doesn't don't want to dislodge anything. Yeah. So don't ever strike on a circle hook. Slow. Yeah. Okay. Putting the bait on. So this is the hardest part. Is putting the bait on a circle hook. I don't know. Does anyone have problems putting pilchards on a circle hook? I know I do. I think you guys would be as well. But it starts with the cutting of the bait. So if that's the tail and that's the head up here, it's a bit of a yucky pilchard, this one. It's probably a bit longer than that actually, but I would cut it there. If I'm going to cube it, there, and that sort of 4 pieces, and I'd throw like 1 pilchard over every, probably the full sink rate, depends on the wind, how fast you're drifting and the windage, but normally around about sort of 50 seconds to a minute before you need to throw the next side out, or maybe 40 seconds, depends. And then once it disappears, it's like it's nearly disappearing, that's when you throw the next handful out, next 4 pieces out. But when you're using it for bait, I sort of cut it, let's do it again. It's a very ugly fish. I sort of keep this section here, if that makes sense, that piece there. And my line goes in from this end, the smaller end, and sort of put it through and pull the hook out, pop it out, and then just stick it back in on this side. So it's come out the here, pull the tip out, and then poke it back in here, sort of thing. So you'll only have like, the line will be here, and the hook will be sort of, that'll be sticking out the side, that's all you'll see.
So
Okay.
you won't have the actual point exposed.
It's dug in, it's normally dug in around the skeleton actually, yeah, of the pilchard. So this is all gone. And it's actually a bit longer than that, sorry. It's, actually that is wider, sorry there. It's like that sort of shape, with the line coming out here. Don't ever go that end, it just spins a bit in the current. If you've got any tension on it, all will start spinning. If they're about to go it and it spins, they'll just swim away from it, okay? You've got to keep it just neutral in the water. Live bait, chunks of, if you've got yakkers or slimies, chunks of them are fine as well for bait if you haven't got pilchards. And live baits are good too, but as I said before, the live bait hookup rate versus the cube bait is one-on-one, actually even I believe better on the cube bait. That's what they're feeding on, they're just coming up. So, and when you get them around the back of the boat, your whole 4 rods will take off. So if you've got 2 guys in the boat and you're starting to catch them, you can't run 4 rods, so you run 2 rods. But it's really hard. And it's very, very, as you know, very, very productive. Only other thing would be, if you do have wind come up, do you back up and start the motor? I'd say no, as Stuart said about full noise. Yeah. I'd leave it all just coming, and you're better off winding your line back up again and dropping it back down again. But keep that burley trail going, keep it going, okay? Any questions on that at all, guys?
Do you, what depth or how far do you start those lines? So you've got your, you can see you keep feeding it out.
Yep.
What's your starting point?
Starting point, well, if they're in the close burley trial, they'll come straight back to the boat and grab it, mate, as soon as you drop it in the water. When they're on, if you've got the school around you, or got a few around you. But as I said, it seems to be the hit, like we've been in the boat and actually they come, you throw the burley out and you'll see them, they come from the front of the boat to the back of the boat, shooting out the back like missiles to grab the thing. They disappear, they peel off, right? I think they go back around for another loop and do the same again. But if you got your lines there and you throw the lines out, they go straight off, mate. You just throw it in the water, you start stripping it off and it's ripped out of your hand, or you turn around next to it, it's screaming off. Yeah, it's pretty aggressive. Those bigger ones are like freight trains. Yeah. And you see those pictures in America where they pole them in. Like once you get them going, they'll just take anything. You can wave a stick bait in the water, they'll jump on. I think. Never tried it, but I think it'd work. Yeah. So any questions on the bait at all, guys? All good. Okay.
What's the deepest you'd want your bait down?
Depends on the day. If you had a glass out day and there's nothing, just no wind, it's like just glass out, no current, not much, so 0.5 a knot, 1 knot maybe. Your sink rate will be, if you're looking down more than at the back, and it'll fall quite deep. If I'm seeing those lines down 100 metres, I'll just keep feeding it out, mate. I'll take it, yeah. Let it go down. Because the burley's going to be getting down there. They'll come up there, they come right to you. They just sort of work their way up the chains. and it's good.
Where do you set yourself up to start your cubing run? So if you're finding,
Yeah.
if you find it on your sound,
Yeah, so
how are you going to position yourself and what sort of...
I'm going to position myself, so those fish I sort of marked on my GPS, I'm just going to work out the rate would take me to get my burley ready, throw a tiny bit in the water, get it going, and my line's in the water. I'd probably start up a little bit, maybe around about 300 to 500 metres if I have, say I'm drifting at half a knot, which is very little. So that's about probably, I guess, around about 20 minutes before I actually come to the fish, but the fish will start coming up to me. And by the time I get to the school, as I saw in the sound, that there's still that area, they'll be it should be happening by that time.
I find they come up to the trail as well.
They come up to the trail.
They'll come up to the
100%. But generally takes about, it doesn't take long, sometimes it can be 10 or 15 minutes, but generally it's about up to an hour.
Yeah.
You just got to drift and just
let
drift. And keep an eye, if you're sitting on the surface, you chuck a stick bait out while you're waiting or whatever. Yeah.
And you'll stick bait in your trail as you go?
I throw lures in there, bit smaller size, like that size or smaller. When I see them on the surface, I'm throwing bigger stick baits. Maybe helps my distance in the casting. I'll talk about it in now anyhow. But so any questions on that at all? On the bait? Okay, it's everyone's dream to catch like a 50 or 60 kilo tuna on a stick bait. It is definitely mine, I can tell you that now. Has anyone done that before yet here? Well, you guys haven't caught one yet, so we'll get real greenhorns. Okay, who wants to do that? Who wants to get like a big tuna on stick bait? I think you all will. It's like everyone's tick the bucket list thing, you know? And that's ours.
Yeah, 100%.
We caught lots of 20 kilos ones, but I never caught a 50 or 60 kilo one, right?
So AG billies, can you get away with freezing them and going again, or always freshies?
As in the burley?
Yeah.
I only just, like, you need a fair pile. It needs to keep happening. And when you get a hook of fish up and you've got 15 minutes of fishing, like it depends on what time you got. You hook the fish up at 8 in the morning, and it's going to be a 50-minute battle to get 60 kilos, whatever it might be. I would sacrifice 3 kilos of keep throwing out pillies for that period. No, straight away I can get another line straight back out there. They're going to be there, you know. So you need that amount. Let's just say if you kept about 2 to 3 kilos of bait on the burley board in that sun and whatever else is smashing it.
Oh, it's more,
Yeah.
Bait left over.
Oh, you guys had left over. Oh, 100%, mate. Yeah. Like they do like fresher stuff, I think, better. Okay. But if you can maybe just put a wet rag over it and just pull it from underneath and throw it out, it's probably a good idea. Because it's like today is hot, right? So it's going to cook it. Yeah, it's going to cook it. Yeah. Okay, stick bait. So, Stu, there's a stick bait rod there, I think.
Yeah.
So, I didn't bring my gear today because it's a long story, but my garage is a schmozzle at the moment, and I haven't had my stickbait rod out since I went up to Airlie Beach at Christmas time. But this is the sort of thing I use. I use a grapple rod, exactly the same. One's actually a 3-piece, I've got a treble. This is one of the new Penn Slammer
DX.
DX deluxe model, and then we've got the Authorities, which is the highest grade they do downstairs as well. We do sell everything else. We got everything: Shimano Saltiga, Daiwa Saltigas, the big Certates. They go up to 18,000. We've got obviously Stellas and Saragosas and everything, but bang for buck, these are hard to beat. Okay, so they're like around, I think 400 something.
Around that.
Yeah, around that. The Authority's up around about 650, 700, a bit dearer. Around 400 or 500 this one, I think. But is it much better, like keeping up with the Saltigas and the Stella? I say no, but I think it's good enough though for the price at less than half the price of what they are. Does that make sense? Capacity wise, obviously they make big ones to suit. This is an 850 size, 8,500 size. It will hold around about 500 metres of sort of P4, which is about 70 pounds. So it holds a good enough capacity.
Yeah.
Rod wise, it needs to have balls. This is very light, so when you're casting stick baits and poppers, you need two important things. One is a rod that can cast and has the power when you hook up to pull on the fish. This is rated to P6, which is about 100 pounds, but it's light as, it's very light. So I can cast it all day long. Second thing is you need gloves. Okay, I don't know if we're all tradies or tough or whatever you are, but you get blisters. Same with jigging. Has anyone got blisters from jigging or casting stick baits yet? If you haven't, I don't know what you guys are doing. I'd like to know.
You're going to get them, yeah.
You're going to get them. It just happens, okay? So just gloves, just thin gloves, they need to be strong. Just thin's actually better. And I'll stop ripping the top of your finger off when you're casting as well. Because you just get a little bit, especially if they're crashed on the surface. At the moment when you see the crash on the surface, like if you all know, it's quite adrenaline pumping. And when you see that big smash on the surface and you just want to get your line out there, remember your mate's behind you. Don't hook him up. And then remember...
It's his responsibility to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's right. One's at that end of the boat, one's the other end. And make sure you're not tip wrapped, because you snap the tip of your rod off, you go the way home, your tail between your legs. There's a lot of things you need to remember when things are happening and shit's in the fan. Because it's at that time, it's really, because I've felt that feeling many times, it's very, everything seems to go out the window. You just want to get your line out there, okay? Next thing you do, before you do that, make sure your drag set reasonably strong. The hook, set that hook, okay? The sharp hooks, but still you set the hook on the stick bait popper. The action, so it's a big long cast, as far as you can get it wherever it's happening. Before that though, how do you do it? Do you fly in 100 miles an hour, turn the motor off and just glide in? No, I don't suggest not to do that. I keep the motor going and try and come side on to them and never at them. Come side on. With all tuning, you try and work from the up end the way they're going to, okay? The trouble is the bait, when you're out there and you've got those big bait schools, they've got a lot of, the ones that are catching them, have got those red mullet in them, the red fish they call. Has anyone ever seen that red bait out offshore yet? I've seen schools sit out there, it's like the colour of that wall actually. It's like the water goes like, you get that like, the coral spawn in the water. It's like that, but it's actually red fish, little red fish. And when you cut their gut open, they're just full of it. So they change their shape. So you normally think, okay, they're working that way with the bait. You get that in town, and next minute the bait goes back that way, and it's quite daunting. But you just got to keep on the game. Someone on the helm all the time. 2 guys casting, 3 guys in the boat's really good. And take turns, because you're going to get peed off if they're catching a fish and you're driving all the time. But generally after 2 fish, you'll probably want to drive anyhow. But yeah, so the guy's driving is continuously chasing. Keep an eye out. Some of the good eyes is really good. Young kids are really good. And any bird activity. And just go over there, go side on, like I said. Both have a throw in there. And when you're working it, it's just a sideways yank and wind back, and sideways yank and wind up. And when you hook up, just pull that, like just really set that hook in, okay? And then that's it. The only problem is the rod's long, okay? And the fish will go under the boat and around places you don't want it to go. And that's when it becomes a little bit tricky. A little short rod would be nice, but you don't have that opportunity when using a stick bait rod. So you just got to go with the flow there and try and work around each other and whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Step back, step forward, hold the rod, whatever you got to do to get it around. And always watch the motors, because when they're close to the boat and they do the big spiral, if you're at the front of the boat, if you've got a centre console, they'll do the big arc around the motor or in under the motor. And quite often just the boat, just the momentum, the prop's always just slowly turning, and seems to always pick the line up. So just be careful of that, okay? Yeah. But yeah, that's the sort of outfit that I'd be using, or do use. Yeah, thanks, Judy. Any questions on that? You got a hook in your finger?
Yeah, cool lure, mate. Oh. Sharp one.
Jeez.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is, Dougie, would you prefer a popper or a stick bait?
Okay.
I would go a stick bait if it was me.
Yeah,
easier to work, but
I'm a stick bait guy for two reasons. And one is, let's put this over here, out of the way. One is because they're easier and less hard work. So if you ever go chasing GTs, it's casting. Poppers actually take it out of you, because there's a bit of a cup on the front, and you work it, and it's quite aggressive. There are things like, this is a hybrid, it's a timber one, it's a popper / stick bait. So it's still going to have a bit of a splash, but it also does the walk the dog type thing, okay? They're very good, and they cast well. But generally stick bait's always about this size. Just joking. I would never use that size. Yeah, I like to use sort of around that sort of size. Okay, that's one of the new flash boosts in the Shimano Osha range. They are a really good lure. I haven't tried them out here on the fin yet, but I reckon it's gonna. I haven't tried them on the Treble. They come out early this year, I think it was.
Yeah, a couple of months ago type of thing. Yeah, but they come with really solid hooks. Really good lure.
Again, are you putting,
Through wire.
Are you taking trebles off them?
I'm running trebles still.
You're still running trebles on them?
But you can run single hooks if you want. It's one of those things we've got to be neutral on, because some guys hate trebles and some guys hate singles, and it's up to it's individual.
Longer rods, because you don't have that purchase power.
Yeah.
That just a good quality but a finer gauge single. You
Yeah.
get a better hook up on it.
Yeah. Controversy to that. I did a trip over to Fiji a few years ago, and I went out with this guy, put me on this guy, took me out GT poppering, and he was really good. He put us on the fish straight up, but we used his lures. He didn't want to take us in my gear. He said, use my gear. And I found out why, because he's trying to get points in the game club over there for his boat. And everything had to have single hooks, and the hookup rate was terrible. Okay. So it was like probably 4 lost fish to 1 caught fish. And I was so hanging for trebles, I would have given anything for a treble that day. And we did it all day and lost a lot of fish. But that is single hooks. But that's just my, and before that though, I never liked them, but that's just me. But other guys swear by them. Show of hands for trebles. Show of hands for singles. Yeah, there's a few. It's probably about 30 singles, 70 trebles.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a... 100%. That's why we're getting. We haven't got fishing yet. We're still rigging up. So the nightfall. Yeah, mate, 100%. So as I said, all the customers and students, it's the same at this time of the year. If you're going to go out deep dropping, or and I say it every week in the report, deep dropping or trawling, you have to have a stick bait rod and maybe a jig rod set up in the boat, just ready to go. And you see that action. That's your chance. You got to have a shot.
Are you running a wind-on or a stick when you're casting rod as well?
No, I'm running about 130 pound, 150 pound leader.
Yeah, so just a heavy leader.
Heavy leader.
FG.
And I just run it. I actually still do a loop knot, still a dozen.
Nah.
I'm a loop knot guy, so I even do a loop knot 150 pound. Yeah. That's just me. And I keep it about the size of my thumbnail.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What sort of length leader are you running on?
Not long, maybe about 1.2 metres.
Yeah. I like it so the knot's out when you cast.
Yeah, knot has to be open casting.
You want
Yeah.
like long enough, sort of short enough so that it's outside the water when you cast, but long enough you got something to grab.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
What
Yeah.
are you using, Stuart?
FG, not. Oh, just to onto it.
Yeah.
Oh, just a
probably
uni or
not.
something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't like this
The,
the whole time.
I will admit though, the bigger lures, a loop knot's not as a necessity because the little lures, it needs to be more free to, but big lures are so big they'll pull the line and
Yeah, they'll do it.
they'll do their own thing. Yeah. So does everyone know how stick bait works? So most of them when you cast them out, they'll sit out of the water like so, okay, on the surface, and as soon as you pull it, you just pull it that way or like that way, and it'll go that way, and you just keep pulling it the same way on your rod, but now next time it goes that way. And it's like that sort of action back. Don't know how that sort of works, but it works that way. Whether the lure be that big for little stick baits or that big, they all do that type of action. And the reason why the fish get so pissed off is they see it go that way, and they think it's going to keep going that way, but all of a sudden it goes that way, and they get really annoyed, and they just smash it. Yeah.
Going back to the trebles, I bought a fair few nomad little slime mackerel knockoff, 140, 180s.
Yeah, the little deeper one.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's 12 metres or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Single hooks, flick 'em.
I know. Yeah,
They've got a
that type of thing, right?
yeah, very
Yeah, yeah.
very similar.
So like
The
DTX
DTX
minnows.
sent out,
Yeah, DTX minnows got single hooks. I would, but that's me.
I'm kind of, I'd rather be assured that it's going to stay there.
Okay, attached to the fish. Trebles are hard to get out. Trebles are the type of thing you only use. If I was going to say I was out there and the tuna really on and I had the adrenaline to keep catching more than 2 fish, after 2 fish I might switch to singles because if I lose one it doesn't matter. No offense. or if I want to release it, it's easy, okay? You know yourself, you get treble in a fish and you've been fighting it for 40 minutes, it is so in there, you just got to operate to get the treble out. So it's never going to recover. So
With the top water lures, the hookup rate always sucks. So
Top-
trebles and top water lures
yeah,
go hand in hand really well, but
Yeah.
the lures under the water,
yeah,
the singles work pretty well as well.
yeah, it's a good call actually. And yeah, getting back to the divers before, we do sell one-on-one probably, you're right, but surface, trebles. That's just me.
And all my stick baits are on a
Yep.
treble in the middle and a single on the back.
Yeah, and some guys do that too. And there's even guys now running assist hooks on the back and one under the front too. Have you tried that at all yet? No. Yeah, it's getting popular, and they're running just the Nomad ones or BKK ones. And the hookup rate's meant to be pretty good because it moves around with the fish. It actually doesn't pull it out. It doesn't leverage against it because it's loose all the time. But I haven't tried that yet, so I can't say. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Yep. I'll pass this one around too. This is actually like a hybrid too. It's called a bobble tip. Has anyone tried these at all yet? They've only been out for 2 weeks, so probably haven't. These are also another Shimano product with that flash boost in it. So the flash boost is one of the most innovative designs I've seen in the lure for many years. There's always lures come out very similar to each other, right? But not many people have an innovation that's different to everyone else. So these guys have come out with, if you remember the old light bulbs with the little filament inside those little springs, and they kept on moving forever. It's the same principle. They've got those little tiny little spring things on either end of this film, and that's how it works. So someone, obviously an older guy, invented it. Because the young guys wouldn't know what it is. And I've never seen one the light bulb for about probably 20 years. But yeah, that's right. Yeah. So they're quite an innovative thing. Does anyone watch the guys? It's called Big GT or yeah, that's right. So the boys from Cast. We stock their lures as well, and this is what they use, and they get lots of yellowfin, they get lots of GTs, everything else. They're a beautiful lure. There's a whole range downstairs, different colours, different sizes. Poppers, that's actually a really good colour for for the tuna. Green, as I was saying earlier, pass those around too. They're all 30% off too. And they do a longer, skinnier type, which is also really easy to work because it's quite easy through the water. You don't get tired working it, and it works well on cast extremely well. rake it. It's hard.
They'll just work the stick bait like normal.
Yep.
Straight line, hit it.
Yep.
But when they'll bring the rod back, they'll bring it back.
Yes.
And they'll wind on the whole cast of loose line.
Yes.
And then when they hook up, and
Yes.
drag, the line bites back into the spool. Gone.
Yeah. Okay. Good call.
Tends to happen.
Yep.
Happen a few times.
Yep.
Sucks.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying on the last part of the rake you start winding already.
Yeah.
Yep.
Always keep a bit of tension in your line.
Yep.
Poppers, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Popper tensions the line every time.
Yep.
On the stick baits, it's
Dip.
a marlin.
Yeah.
Drilled it into you.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good call. Oh,
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
a big factor as well.
Yeah, so that's the same scenario when you are doing the cubing as well, guys. So you're stripping the line off and just winding the loose little pilcher back in again, maybe 100 metres. Sometimes it pays to actually wind it through your fingers, a bit of tension on it. Because when that fish hits, and if it hits at just 10 metres out and you've got 90 metres of soft stuff, as you said, it'll cut down and lock in. Even mono does it as well, so yeah. So does everyone understand what Leigh's saying there? Yep. Good. Yeah, thank you. Okay. That's about it for the stick bait. So yes, we've got now our rods and reels all ready to go. We've sort of gone through what we're going to do when we get out there. But I would start, as I said before, I'd start the day off trawling. I'd be looking for the fish on the sounder. I'd then trawl around those fish, look for birds, whatever. And as I said, the only time I'd be switching to something else is if it wasn't happening trawling. Just trawling's easy, but it is monotonous if you're not getting any action. And if they're down deep, you have to switch. You have to stop, you have to cube, or you have to jig or do something different. Okay? When they come to the top, and they do come with the bait, have that stick bait rod ready to go. Okay? Really important. I just want to show you out here on your GPS sheet, if you want to grab it out, just quickly.
Hey?
In my head. It's not really in perspective, is it?
Not really. These ones are way too far
Yeah, too
out.
far out. Around the seamounts.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's way closer off Tweed. Yeah. He's closer. What off Tweed, Dougie? Is that the king?
that's the kink here. That's Tweed down there.
How far is that?
This is exactly 30 miles. 32, sorry. 32. And that's about 30 to Kink. Similar distance to Jim's from the seaway.
Yeah, but off of actual Tweed.
Oh, it's close. About around about less than 20 nautical miles.
Yeah.
Like
Less than 40k.
30 k's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's closer, Matthew. Like, that's probably your best bet. Fit like you. Yeah. 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 we noticed that the other day when we were deep dropping. Like we went down off Tweed and still see like houses on the hill. Nearly.
Sorry guys,
Yeah.
I'm just going to explain to you where the marks are in comparison to where you are. How many people could tow their boat down to New South Wales? Half of you. So for the smaller boats, it's going to be a go-to, okay? And the tuna down there last Sunday, 2 weeks ago, was really, they were thick out there. Actually, when the game comp was on.
Is New South Wales as in like off Tweed?
Yes, correct. So you need New South Wales licence, of course. It's about $80 for 3 years. That's not too bad. But from the Tweed Bar, which just Tweed Head's there, Tweed Bar's sort of here, wherever it is. Tweed Bar's there somewhere. From the Tweed Bar down to the canyons, the Tweed Canyons is like about 30 something K. So it's like going just out past the 36s. You'd be from the bar to the canyons is closer than going to the 50s out the front here. Okay.
What depth are they at the canyons at?
Well, it's about 300 on the edge, and then within about 500 metres in 500, and then about 3 Ks in about 2,000 metres, or 4 Ks. Sorry?
The marks for that on the sheet?
Yes, they are. So I'll start on these ones. Sorry, guys, my glasses on. So anywhere from 28, where it says under 600 metres deep, 28, 14 is around this area here. So the Tweed Bar's on about 28.10 or 28.11, I think. So about 3 miles south of the bar, but you're out a little bit. 28.16, so this is under 600 metre deep, about 10 or 12 numbers down where it is. 28.16, you're a couple of miles south. That's actually in a bit closer. 28.21, you're down towards sort of Cabarita or Hastings Point sort of thing. 28.28, you're down off east of Windara Banks. So you're about 45 to 50 Ks south of Tweed Bar by that time. And then 28.36, right down the bottom, you're about off Brunswick Heads nearly. Okay. The shelf down there is very aggressive compared to out here. So we're in unfortunately for us out here, when you go to Point Lookout, it has very aggressive canyons. If you look at, actually, if we go any further, everyone should have on their phone. If they don't have it, I suggest spending $38 and get it. Oops, sorry. I'm thinking of the price while I'm trying to do this. Navionics Boating, the greatest app ever invented, will become your Bible for fishing. Especially when you go on your mates' boats, because you just copy everything. Sorry?
Does it work out? Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it works off. It chews the battery up, but it works on not data. It works on satellite.
Yeah.
So you could be 500 k's offshore, it'd be perfect. Yeah, hopefully. But Navionics Boating. So how many guys have upgraded to active captain or CMAC reveal? Has anyone done that yet?
Yeah, I've got active captain.
Yeah.
Come with it.
Yeah, so it shows everything like 3D detail. So it's like looking at pictures of 3D of the bottom. Okay. I'll show you on the phone when we're finished. I can't show you now because it's on there. But it's extremely good. So, and when you zoom out to these canyons, look at it and you go, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. But it's only amazing at Point Lookout and Tweed. And out the front here, we have none of that at all. It's just a gradual slope that goes down. But we have 3 big meteorites, I reckon they are, that landed on the bottom out here. Okay, and they are Jimmy's Mountain, which is here, which is 30 nautical miles out. So that's 54 Ks times it by 1.8 Ks to a mile, nautical mile. We have Riviera Grounds, which is here, 28 nautical miles out. And we have, we call Little Riv, which is a few miles out further. It's at about 650 metres. And it's also another big rock. So when you zoom in, it just looks like a big rock that's landed on the bottom with the scathing, it's been earthed out from the current around it and made little canyons around it. but they're not in any canyon forms, just sitting on the bottom. And the rocks, but talk about rocks, they're 100 and something metres high. So they're like a 30-storey building high. And they're about a couple of Ks by half a K wide sort of thing. It's like a big, like Ayers Rock sort of thing. Then we go here to Jim's Mountain. This is more structure, like a mountain. So it's about 1,100 metres or 1,000 metres on this side, and it comes up to about 780 on the top and drops down to 1,200 metres on that side. So that's nearly a 500 metre rise, so that's fairly substantial, half a K high. The area, this area does hold, actually I'll start here. This is 300 metres. So 300 metre, if you look on that map, it's like a big bulldozer tractor mark. But it's actually reef because we bottom fish it for cod and we get snagged all the time. But it looks like a bulldozer track goes up here for nearly all the way. And that's where the tuna start. So sometimes you're at the bottom dropping and the birds will be diving and there'll be tuna jumping. And that's where we start to get them, trawling as well. And that's where you get a lot of blue marlin as well. Then you go out, and that's about 50K out. Then you go out just another sort of 5 or 10, 8K, and you're out here on these guys. And it drops from 300 down to 500, drops down quite quick. So the coastline's like 100 metres like that. That's 40 Ks to get it to 100 metres, which is 50 fathoms. And it drops, then it goes, the angle goes like that. It goes down quite quick. When you get to 300 metres, it starts to go a bit steeper. When you get to 600 metres, it's nearly free fall.
When do you start trawling?
I like to trawl, actually, if I'm trawling for tuna, about 280 metres, 300. But if I'm here, that's a bit of...
You're going for marlin, you're going out there and stuff.
Yeah, the blues and stuff like that, I actually really like that sort of 180 to 300 metre like area clay. Get a lot of big fish there too. Yeah, striped blues and blues. And tuna.
Sorry, mate. Are you looking for the upwellings before you...
Okay, so this is... Generally, the upwellings, this is always going to be southerly current here, it rips. This is more the area where the upwellings are. So, in general, that's where I'd start. But, as I was about to say before, when we're in the shop here, we get a lot of information, so we sort of know from our customers, we try not to share everything, but most of their stuff, people let us share, which is not many. They say, okay, this is roughly the area where we got them today, and this is the depth and whatever. That I would then, and I do look at the rip chart I don't use rip charts, I used to use a bomb chart that shows water temp and currents, and I'll go to that, and then I'll see, you'll see the current, and then you'll see like a circular where the hot water goes cold, and that's where I'm going to head to, Phil. Yeah, exactly, on that day. Wherever it might be, whether it's off Lookout or down on Tweed or at the front here. But at the moment, it seems to be in this area here.
If you're going chasing tuna, would you go a jumping pin to get to the shelf quicker?
If you're in the area of living in, say, if you're Calypso Bay or something, yeah, in the bars, okay, I'd go that way, it'd be quicker, yeah. But if you're living in Southport, it's quicker to go that way than to go up to the bar and out. It's actually slower. Unless you're maybe at Sovereign, maybe, yeah. So
when you're checking the rip charts and the sea temps, what sort of time frame are you looking at?
it's pretty well live nearly. I think it's sort of in a couple of hours.
Is it hanging like are those upwellings hanging around for days?
Yeah, sometimes they're very quick. Sometimes they're very quick, but generally 3 days, 4 days. Sometimes for a week, but 3 to 4 days normally. Most, like you look at, say you got a current up at Fraser. It's generally down here within about 3 days, sort of thing, 3 or 4 days. So if it's doing 4 knots, 72 hours, it's travelled 280 miles, nautical miles, which is about the distance to Fraser. So it's 3 days, sort of thing. Yep.
Sorry, no, you're saying to draw on the way out, like out?
If the water's right there, I'd maybe throw my lines out here, but I would really just want to get straight to maybe beyond out to mix at this time of the year, 100%, or down to weekends. Yeah, just go straight there. Yep. Because with tuna, they have a really good morning bite and a really good late afternoon bite. They will have a daytime bite based on moon rising or tide.
Yeah.
But it's predominantly going to be early morning, late afternoon. So sometimes you won't get back till dark. Back in the day, it was always dark, and it was a bar, wasn't Seaway. But going out here, Mixed Mountain, like I said, 400 metre rise, whatever it is. It's 35 nautical miles, which is about 62 k's or something. And this thing here, which I said we'll call it Matt's Mountain, but I don't know what it's called. But it's about another 3 mile out, and it's massive. It's like 3 miles long and a mile wide, and comes up fairly substantial. But I had a sound was another thing too, guys. My old sound didn't reach the bottom out there. It's 2,000 metres deep. Okay. Yeah. But we're not looking at the bottom. We're looking, unless we're I like looking at the bottom for deep dropping. But if I went on surface fishing, I just want to look at the scatter layer and up. That's where I'm looking. So you don't need a good sounder to do that. 200 metres max. A 600 watt sounder should be able to work out there in that category.
Doug, what app or like website do you use to check the water temperature chart?
So it's BOM. It's on there. It's like ACO 300 or something that it's called. If you go to, Windy has it too. Windy has sea temperature, and you can see it on there. So as long as you got, we pay for the better Windy one.
Yeah.
So when you click, it's about $99 a year or $69 a year or something. But when you click down the bottom on the side, you go to, you won't be able to do it if you don't subscribe to it, but if you do, all of a sudden this massive, everything comes up, every layer, everything. And you just click on currents, click on whatever it might be, yeah, temperature, whatever. It's a bit like rip charts, I guess, but doesn't show the bottom definition. It shows everything out on top. Then down on Tweed, guys, this is what we call the kink. It's actually a bit further up, and that's up around here. But the kink's about 30 mile from the seaway, same as Jim's. It's about the same distance if you're going to go from the seaway. And the kink's actually out further than where it comes in close here. So if you're from the Tweed Bar, that's obviously, you go in here and fish, we can go to the kink, or we could if we want to. But the problem is, when you're from the seaway, it's actually further down, because it's a couple of miles south of that area there, or a few miles south, down to where it comes in here. Really good bottom fishing out there, that area. But there's a couple of mates that fished the shootout the other day in the game club. They said there's so many tuna, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, tuna just jumping everywhere. Yeah, but they didn't have anything. Yeah. Did you guys fish it at all, Phil? Didn't fish the comp? No. You have a bit of problem casting there, Phil?
Sorry?
You have a bit of problem casting. like a fly fisherman, mate. So, Navionics boating, get it. Has anyone got it on their phone now? Has anyone seen that mountain that I'm talking about? You zoom out and have a look. It's on that chart. It's on this here. So that last number where it says over 600 metres deep, I'm talking this area here. So there's a spot there I trawl a lot and get a lot of tuna, or you see a lot of tuna and they're still there. It's about halfway or 2/3 away from Jim's Mountain to Mick's Mountain. It's about 800 metres. It's just, they just always are there. I don't know why. So that's where I would start trawling. Who've asked me before I start trawling, that's about it. About 700, 750. Because from there to there, it's only about half hour trawling at 8 knots. It's not far. Yeah. And you're covering good ground.
Windara Bank, what's about?
Windara Bank's only shallow. It's only in like 50 metres, 60 metres.
So you use that.
But you get little yellowfin there, heaps of them in summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not big ones. Actually, in saying that, guys, we had, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 customers last year that got tuna, like 30 kilo yellowfin, out on the Diamond Reef. I fishing for mackerel last season. So they do come in. They're good fish. One was probably 30 kilo plus. So, as I say, everything we talked about tonight, just downsize a bit. Stick base, everything still works the same. Cubing's the same. I've caught heaps of the yellowfin at the cubing. Just downsize everything. Okay.
Is there fuel jetties in the Tweed
Okay, that's a good question because we ran out of fuel once. We were out of the 9 Mile having a fat session on Wahoo, wanted to go back out and get more. So we didn't have enough fuel, and we didn't have enough fuel to get back to the Seaway, so we come in the bar. And this is going back 10 or 15 years ago probably. There used to be where the houseboats were, they had a fuel jetty there. I think it's all gone now.
So there's no fuel jetty in the bar?
There's that garage near is it Twin Towns? There's a garage just near there, near the shopping centre. You'd have to walk with things and walk back. But if the fish are on, you'll do it, okay? Exactly. Yeah. So that would be my call. Okay, guys, any questions on anything we've talked about tonight? All good? You guys are all clear. Does anyone want to know any more than that, what we talked about? I think if you can get all that and get it into practice, you'll understand how it works. I think that's the best way. Yes? Yeah. This is the part. Yeah, always on the colder side. Always on the colder side. The thing that does my head in with yellowfin tuna, I've never been able to work it out. And I've caught them down south, and I've caught my best yellowfin session ever was in Papua New Guinea with 32-degree water temperature. And they're everywhere. Once it gets about 26 out here, they disappear until next September. Why aren't they biting when it goes up out to 28 out here? You know, why don't they hang around? I don't know. Go down south of Sydney, I think it gets to about 24, they're gone, right? 23, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it works even colder down there, they disappeared.
So here you're working up to 26?
Oh no, about 23, 24.
24, 30 max?
Seems to be.
Okay. And you min?
But the long line guys, they get actually when the September, October was the time when I worked with the guy. That's when he said the best time for both big eye. We got big eye, and they're huge. So like 120 kilos, you know. But that's on long line. The yellowfin tuna, yeah, he always said by mid-November it was all over Red Rover. But they work then deeper. They work big set lines deep. And they do get them all year. They head up north. They actually go north where it gets hot. They go to Fraser and stuff like that. I don't know I don't know what there's. No, I'd definitely fish it. I'd give it a crack still. With the technology we have these days, I think you're going to catch them. But I'd work it where there's a minimum of a 2-degree temperature change colder in that area. So if you could see on the current line, it was 27 and it dropped down to 24 or 25, I'd give it a crack. You're going to get other fish anyhow, marlin and wahoo or whatever, and dolphin fish. This time of year too, guys, very, very important that you keep an eye out for anything floating. Anything floating. So one of our customers was out the other day and he showed the pictures of some rope. It was only about the size of this table, there's some big thick rope and all shit caught up. They had the fattest day ever on big dolphin fish and wahoo and everything else, tuna as well. And they saw it, I think they were north of Tweed, round about. And by the time they had like a 4-hour session, just absolutely got hammered on stick baits, poppers, everything they could think of. They ticked all the boxes. They were about nearly Brunswick heads, and they never run out of fuel come back. So, because you just drift with the current, and you don't realise. And we did that once before. We were off same similar area. Twice I've had it down at Tweed Heads. One time we were there, and we were actually bottom bashing in about 300 metres of electrics, and there's a glass out, and I just see this thing sticking out of the water like this, but about 400 metres away. And it was about out of the water about maybe 1.5 metres, and it was sort of going up and down, looked like it's going down. And I thought it was a submarine periscope first, or something like that sort of thing. Sorry, watching too many movies maybe, but it looks like it's going to water like this, right? And I said to the guys, what's that, you know? So by the time we got our lines, it was like 15 minutes later. The thing's just drifting with us. And so we went over it and had a look, but we knew not to get too close because you never go straight up to it because you'll scare everything away. You come up to about 100 metres away and you might just try and peg some pilchers as far as you can and see what comes out. And then cast these things straight in there if you see fish. And generally it's like a Christmas tree. All these colours will just come out and it's just like mayhem. And it's like, you just like, thank you. And you just go hard till whatever. And this particular day we saw that thing drifting along. It's the same deal. We were off Tweed. We drifted. We were like by 4 hours was spent, and it was down off. I don't know how far south. It was in summer, late November. It was about 3 knots of current, 2 knots of current. We fished up to about 3.6 deep dropping. We just put more lead on the electric reel, and I think we were down near Brunswick somewhere. It was a long trip home. I think it was around about 2.5 hours to get back instead of about an hour and a half. And but that you got to look for. And all it was, we went after we finished, and we said, "That's it. No more casting, no more fish." And we're throwing stuff back for the last 2 hours. We went and had a look what it was. It was a piece of bamboo about, and the water's crystal clear. It was a piece of bamboo about probably 100 mil or 150 mil round, and it was about 6 meters down to the water, vertically just drifting like that. And it had a massive amount of fish around. I'm talking like 50 meters around. It was just all fish. One little thing, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. And another time we found a tree log about the size of this, floating, and it was the same deal. It was just, so I've only ever come across it twice in my life out here.
There was an overturned tinny, well, a month or two ago in front of Tom, correct?
Oh, was there anything on it?
Young fella's footy presentation through on the mission going back in, and one of the boys up the front, he's like, "There's something over there, there's a boat or something overturned." I'm like, "I better go look, make sure there's no one else hanging around." Go over, had a look, probably the Rego, couldn't get anything going on. I'm like, "Man, we literally got to go."
Yeah. Oh, you didn't throw a line in?
Well, we didn't have a chance. The sun late as, and I'm like, there would have been so many dollars around there.
Oh yeah, even in that close, 100%. Does that have barnacles of growth on it?
It wasn't that old, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it still doesn't matter. They'll still be there.
Upside down, I'm like,
Yeah.
even with a foam and old eskies,
Yeah.
you always want to flick something at it.
Yeah, my dad.
Tinny would have been mint.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. My dad was back in the 80s, early 80s. My dad had this philosophy because he loved game fishing back in the day, and he goes, I said, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he's throwing around like 80 metres or 70 metres, and he'd be throwing newspaper on the surface, right, and making this area about this big. And he goes, "We'll come back to it in an hour, son." We never ever caught any fish, but he believed they were going to come to there. Just don't waste your time, guys. It's got to be in the water a while. Okay? Sorry, Dad. Tell the truth. Okay, guys. Is there any other questions about tonight? Oh, yeah. Just one last thing. Tools. You just need a good hook out gun, guys. Good hook out gun just to get the hooks out. You need a big fillet knife. Okay. The easiest way I find when I do my tuna is to cut them down the middle. Cut them down the middle. Do 2 lots of fillets, top and bottom. Okay. Has anyone done a big tuna before? Or a big amberjack? Yeah, cut it down the middle. Yeah, three strips? No, two. Yeah, two's good. Yeah, but you want about at least an 8 to 10 inch fillet knife. Okay, I've got a 12 inch actually at home, big one. Yeah, something quality blade, whatever, sharp, really sharp. I know time's going a lot real quick tonight, but I just got to tell you a real quick recipe because tuna are the best eating. And my wife's the best cook on tuna, I think so. But it's a Japanese style recipe, and it's like what do you call the one when you burn it? What's it called? Sorry? No, what do you call that? No, what do you call that style? Aburi. Okay, aburi means to burn it with the flamethrower, which you can buy from any Korean shop or Japanese food shop. And it's just like put one of those canisters on it and turn it on and just like, it's like a flamethrower, right? And what you do is, instead of doing it sushi style, you just put, you use Japanese rice, really nice rice, okay? And then put it onto a plate so big, a plate that doesn't burn and crack when you heat it up. And then, so you put rice on about 10 mil thick on the base and just, don't pat it down too tight, but just put it on there. And then you make teriyaki sauce, and the easy way to make teriyaki sauce is just soy sauce and sugar. And sake, Japanese sake. And mix it up, burn it, don't burn it, but heat it up, and when it starts to bubble really, really crazy, that's when it's starting to get thick, and just keep stirring. And then do that for about a minute, then take it off. It'll set really thick quick. And then you just get a brush or just pour it over the rice on the base, okay? And then you cut the yellowfin tuna into about 2 or 3 mil thick strips on the shoulder pieces that you've got, 2 pieces, and cut it lengthwise, 2 mil thick, and then just lay that across the top in little pieces about that size, which is the thickness of the halves. Layer it, and so on. And then you have some more, heat the sauce up what's left over so it goes soft again. And then you put the sauce on next, isn't it? Sauce, yeah. Put the sauce on top of the tuna then, just a little bit of teriyaki sauce again on top of the tuna. And then the Japanese Kewpie mayo, and just over the top like that, all the way across the top. And then you get the Bunsen burner out and just cook it and take your time and sort of just a little bit tiny burnt, like tiny bit. And go all the way down. And oh my God, it's so good. Has anyone tried that yet? Have you tried it, eh? Simon?
I bought it.
You bought it, yeah, that's right. But guys, you've got to do it. I've been eating tuna all week and every night, and it's so good. It is so good. Okay? And you're eating like probably $200 worth every time you do it, you know. It's so good. Give it a shot. And it's quick and easy. And everyone just digs into it. Okay, guys. Oh, gaff. I just want to show them gaffs. Make sure your gaff's strong, something like that style. Doesn't need to be too long, and doesn't have to be that quality, but something that's thing. And like I said, a shorter gaff or a meat hook to lift them into the boat. As I said, they've got broad shoulders. It's quite hard to get them outside. Through the back to is good. Okay. I think that's about all we cover.
No, I think that's about
Black magic harness, definitely the best harness to use. That's about it, yep.
Don't you need a harness?
On fish about 30 kilo and above, I'd say yes. It's 40-minute battles. Like on 24 kilos, it could be 20 minutes. I've never done one on 20 minutes, I don't think. They just go round and round forever. Yeah. Sometimes they may be stupid, come straight to the boat, but rare. And if you get one the size at the moment, 50 or 60 kilo plus, it's going to be 50 minutes, I think. Unless you're on 37 kilo, you might get in 20 minutes. But it's hard going. Yeah. Forearms probably get sore in your back, but yeah, it depends how fit you are, I guess. I suffer everywhere. Okay, guys, tonight we've got $1,100 worth of gear. The first one's about nearly $400, I think. And I think it's $250 and goes down from there. 6 prizes, and we will call it out now. Thank you, Stewie. Our next seminar is on the totally different to what tonight is on the 10th of November with Johnny the Jack guy. We're doing mangrove jacks. All lure fishing, no bait fishing. Stewie, who have we got for the first prize, mate?
number 2.
Wow. Oh, Stewie's back at it again. Greggy, well done, mate. Thanks, mate. Cheers, mate. Well done, Greggy. Greg's my uncle. Okay, cuts back. Not really. Okay, Masako, you're next. Oops, sorry. Okay, it is number. Why did you get? Oh gosh.
It's number 1.
Nathan.
Nathan.
It must be me.
Thanks, mate. Thank you. Okay, number 3, which is still, I think, around $200 worth, or a bit more maybe.
You mean that what you were calling number 3?
Although, finally, down the middle of the pack. Number 19, Clay. You're up, buddy. Clay, well done, buddy. Thank you. Clay, did you get any tuna up? Did you go to Early Beach recently? Did you get any tuna up there at all, mate?
No, not getting any tuna.
Right, okay.
But some of the marks you gave us, we got some red.
Oh, good.
Red emperor, some big coral trout.
Good.
It was good.
Ah, very good.
I took a photo when it turned up.
Okay, good, mate, good. So, guys, if you ever travel away, because we do a lot of travel fishing ourselves away, and we learn the honey holes like I gave to Clay, and from our customers as well. So, most areas we have some marks on. So, if you're ever going away, just ask us, we'll share them with you. Okay? So, you have a good time. Okay, that's what we're all about. Okay, 4th one. Stuart, you're up, mate. I'm looking your way, but I don't know.
Number
Good.
24.
Sorry. 24 is going to be Anthony. Oh, Anthony. Well done, buddy. Congratulations, mate. Good on you, mate. Oh, thank you. Okay, I think the fifth one's still around. Oh, fifth, sixth, fifth. Still, I think it's around $60 or maybe a bit more, I don't know. Whatever it is. Miss Tucker. Oops. It is. Come on, eyes are bad, sorry. Okay, number 14, which is Lay. It's you, mate. Well done, buddy. Getting down towards the dreads, mate, but still better than nothing. Good. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and the last one. And guys, thanks for coming along tonight. This Sunday looks good, but as we all know, the weather does change overnight. But Sunday would be my call for this weekend. If you got the chance to go the next 3 days, like Clays and other guys, you feel you're going just tomorrow, yeah, okay. It would be good. Okay, it's another close one at the front, you guys. Sorry for everyone else. It is Nigel, number 5. Well done, mate. Everybody, thank you. Cheers, mate. So, guys, just to let you know, we do have some combo packages if you do need stuff that's cheaper than online. I can promise you that. And if you need any gear, you're welcome to lay by it. You're welcome to come back and have a look at it if you want. Otherwise, we'll be downstairs for next hour. And otherwise, drive safe home. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, Mr. Sucker.